Welcome back to USC.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to be back. Couldn't think of a place, maybe one place I'd rather be, but that's just home. But outside of that, this is kind of home.
It is. It's a second home. You've been so involved and so generous to not just the entrepreneur program, but the business school. So we want to sort of take them through your journey and life. And we tend to start at the beginning just to give you a little context. First, give us an overview of Cherokee uniforms today before we dive backwards, sort of size, scope, products, what you do.
Okay. So we are a medical uniform footwear and accessory company primarily. We have about 450 employees. We ship product to about 30 countries around the world, including across the entire U.S. We're about $285 million in sales. We own the Cherokee brand for all medical or all uniform products worldwide. And then we license brands like Dickies, Skechers, Baby Fat, Disney, and other brands. We also distribute in the footwear world. We'll distribute Skechers and Avia and K-Swiss and other products.
Excellent. And how many employees?
450.
And where are your operations around the world right now?
We have offices here in Chatsworth is our main office. We have a distribution center that we built in 2004 that's about 300,000 square feet in Dallas, Texas. We've got an office that services Walmart in Bentonville, Arkansas, and offices in Shanghai and Hong Kong.
Excellent. Excellent. So much larger than when you first started and acquired it.
Yes.
And how long has it been since you acquired Cherokee?
Well, we acquired the company in 1995. I got started in 1990 working for an apparel company called Cherokee, and the business was about a $3 million business. Going backwards, they were thinking about closing it. I ended up stepping in and taking over the division, and at that point it was me and half of a customer service rep, and then the company provided all the services to us. And then over time, we built our own team. And so when I started, Cherokee was $240 million. We were $3 million in 1990. And I started in 89, took it over in 1990. By 1995, we were 17 million. Cherokee was 50 million, so we were 17 of their 50. They had gone through 2 Chapter 11 bankruptcies. And the company was being split apart. They were becoming a licensing company, going out of the manufacturing business, and it provided the opportunity for us to take this medical uniform business and spin it out. We also do some school uniforms as well.
Excellent. Well, let's go back before that. Let's go back to where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Encino.
In Encino. So family, how big of a family? Brothers and sisters?
I had 2 younger brothers and a younger sister.
Where do you fall?
I was the oldest.
Okay. And you from Encino. Where'd you go to college, Mike?
I went to the best university in the nation, the University of Southern California.
And while at
Right
US,
on.
yeah, oh yeah, you know it, brother.
Doesn't get any better than this.
It's not bad. So you
As a
come
matter
to
of fact, can I add something to that?
Is it going to be football related? So because we don't
No,
want to go
it's
there.
not really football related. Although, we are playing, it's like a boxer with one hand behind his back, because we only got 75 scholarships to everybody else's 85. But when my daughter Kayla,
Let's save this one.
Okay,
Let's
I'll
save
say
this
that.
one. Yeah, we're
All
going
right.
to save this one. Okay. Let's go. So you come to USC. You had a good experience here.
Yeah.
Mike is a year or two ahead of me. Also student body president while you're here. I remember that. While you're in school, you started a business. What was it?
I was an orientation advisor, and it was 1982, and there was this kind of bizarre thing that had happened. A woman, Frank Zappa's daughter, her name was Moon Unit Zappa, had created this song called Valley Girls, and it became this nationwide sensation. I was from Encino, so when they would introduce me, and the Valley Girls were from Encino, and it was like a #1 song everywhere. And when they introduced me as Mike Singer from Encino, literally after lunch, I would have a swarm of like 30 people around me asking me questions about Valley Girls, which was pretty bizarre. And so I created a Valley Girls calendar while I was here at USC.
And it went well. Tough business, obviously. Can you talk about how your dad once helped you with a problem that you faced in the business?
Yeah, so we were late. I started this business at the end of the summer. So we started taking photographs, finding models, taking photographs like in end of September. Took a semester off school to do it. We got the calendar ready by like October 20th or something like that. And we tried to go sell it. But the reality was that even though it was very novel, even though it was very hot, the bookstores and the gift stores had made their calendar purchases a year ago. And they had received in their shipments for calendars like in August. So I was really trying to sell something that they were saying, well, that's great, even if it sells, all my other stuff isn't going to sell. So what do I want this for? So the challenge was how to get it in. And I had a PR campaign at the time, so I was on radio shows every morning, different parts of the country, because this song was still top of the charts. And my dad he said, let's get on the phone and let's call the CEO of B. Dalton Books, which was the largest bookstore chain at the time. And he called me up at home. He was at his office, and I just thought he was joking, So then he puts me on hold, and he comes back, and he says, I got the executive secretary to the CEO on the phone. I just explained to her what's going on, and in the next 5 seconds, the CEO is going to come on the phone, so get ready. So I was, I don't know, I think I was 18 or 19 years old, and all of a sudden, the CEO picks up the phone, and there I am. So I say to him, look, I know you bought your calendars, but I've got this calendar, and this trend is the hottest trend in the country, and I'm on radio shows every day in different parts of the country, and all I need to do is say that this calendar is available in your store, and I'm going to drive traffic into your store. You're going to sell my calendars, but on top of that traffic, you're going to sell a lot of other stuff too. So I want you to think of this as a traffic builder. I'll guarantee the sales of the calendar. Just put my calendars in and give this a shot. And he did. So it was really my dad that opened that door, kind of put me on the spot and made it happen.
Good pitch.
It was, thanks.
Good pitch.
Desperation does wonders for you, because we had printed 10,000 calendars, and I think I'd sold about maybe 1,600 of them, and I had a printer who was basically, screaming at me, when am I going to get paid? So
great experience, good advice. How did that sort of turn, and your next enterprise was a national collegiate magazine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Could you just tell us what that was?
So I was here, I was doing consulting work for an Austrian guy who was helping small businesses he was consulting them, and so on their growth plans. And so I was writing business plans for him and working for him. I had this job, and I did it during the year. And then I left, graduated, went to Europe. I had a girlfriend at the time who was in France. She had planned this 6-week trip. Spent all the money I had and a little more, came back and found out that this guy he had clients who were in trouble. They couldn't pay their bills. He took over their real estate. He didn't know anything about real estate. Anyways, he couldn't hire me. So here I was, graduating USC. I just spent all my money, gone to Europe, came back, and didn't have a job. So I talked to a professor that I had here at USC, Warren Bennis, just checked in with him, and by chance he had someone he wanted to refer me to. And I went and met with a gentleman in Santa Monica who owned a series of restaurants in college towns. He had about 30 restaurants, and he wanted to produce some kind of a publication to promote his restaurants. So I hired on with him as a consultant. I built a concept and a business plan for a national publication for college students. We launched it 2 years later on 400 campuses with 1,400,000 copies, and we had like AT&T and American Express, and Anheuser-Busch was our main sponsor, and General Motors, and we were off and running. But it didn't turn out so well in the end. Well, it did and it didn't.
So tell us how you start something, it's your baby. What happens when someone gets brought in to help run it, and what happens then?
Well, I had done like 2 years of research and development and wrote the business plan, developed the prototype, the logo, the graphics, the look for it, the media kit. I had gone out and was selling the advertising. And we were about to launch. My partner, who was a 90% partner, I owned 10, he felt that he was taking on a big risk. He was going to have to make about $1.5 million investment. And he felt that we needed someone with more publishing experience. So one day I get a call when I'm on the road, and it's, "Hey, Mike, I want you to talk to this," and she's going to be the publisher, and she's going to be your boss, and I want you to talk with her and then come in and meet with her. So hired her, came back to meet with her. She was someone who really had a lot of editorial experience, but really no business experience. She pitched herself as someone with business experience, but she really had none. And we had a business plan that was very conservative, and she really changed everything because she came out of a daily publishing environment. Our business plan called for 4 issues for the first year, then 6, and a maximum of 8 ever, because there wasn't that much advertising in the college market, and the publication was free. You were paying to ship it, paying to insert it into college newspapers across the country. She came out of daily publishing and just couldn't live with the concept of a publication only coming out 4 times a year. She was from the Herald Examiner, which was the rival to the LA Times, publishing every single day, and she said, "We got to go to 12 issues or no one will know we exist." And I said, "Well, no one's going to know we exist because we're going to be out of business if we publish 12 issues. So she got him to go first year to 6, second year to 8, and by the second year we were in real severe financial trouble. And we clashed. She was very political and was able to kind of convince my partner that I just had sour grapes because I wasn't running things and I couldn't handle it, that I wasn't running running the business. And basically I was trying to convince him that her business plan made no sense. But she had done such an effective job of sort of boxing me in a corner of sour grapes. No matter what I told him, he just heard sour grapes, sour grapes, sour grapes. Pretty soon he was tasting the sour grapes because I got fired, and a year later the business fell apart. And that's the way it goes sometimes. So it was tough, to get fired. It was really tough. I had gotten engaged, bought a condo, then got married, went on my honeymoon, came back. Kind of a theme, I think. Going away going away has not been very good to me. But I went away. I went to Australia, came back, and they called me for a breakfast meeting. I went to meet with him, and he told me I was fired, and then he wanted me to go down the street and meet with her. No, I met with her first. She told me I was fired. And then she wanted me to go down the street to another restaurant where I met with him, and he told me I was fired. I got fired twice in one day.
And how did you, in retrospect, with a little bit of time, how was getting fired from that a good thing?
Well, at first it sucked. I have to tell you, I remember I came home, my wife, she started crying. She took out a knife. We only lived about a block away. She was ready to go there and take care of business, She's tough. I had to talk her down. You don't want to see her with a knife. You don't want to see her angry. So, for about 6 months I tried to buy it. I was kind of waited. I wrote a business plan. I started talking to people because I knew they were going to get in trouble, and I wanted to raise the money and buy it. But they were, a little too proud, and they weren't really of a mindset that they were going to sell it. And so, basically I ran out of money. We sold my car. My wife and I were sharing one car. Down to about 1 month left of savings in the bank, was going to lose the condo, and it was time for me to get a job because I needed to do it. And that really felt to me, because I really considered myself an entrepreneur. I had, come to USC, wanted to go to the business school, wanted to be in the entrepreneur program. It wasn't the Greif Center then, but it was the entrepreneurship program. I'd started this calendar. I had started this national newspaper for college students, and it was really, for me, it was sort of, I felt in a way like I was selling out by going and getting a job. But when you're about to lose everything you have, selling out, sometimes, you got to do what you got to do. So I went and, got this job at Cherokee, which I thought was really going to be more like, I mean, they made me a great offer. It was a great company, and I thought it was going to be, I was working as the right hand of the president. I had the only PC in the place at the time, but I was national sales administrator, and I had no idea that it would really lead to this great entrepreneurial opportunity that I was able to realize from it.
So let's talk about that. When you joined the company, Cherokee, as you explained, was more than just uniforms. It was apparel.
It was a big apparel company and footwear.
And they got into trouble. Their financial situation deteriorated, right? The medical division or the uniform division was going well. You said that you become 17 of their 50 million, but the rest of their business was going well. So they decided they were going to sell pieces of the company or the whole company?
Well, Cherokee, it's interesting. Cherokee, in a way, was a victim of their own success. Sometimes businesses fail because they just have too many problems, and sometimes they fail even when they're successful. Cherokee grew like a rocket ship. Started out as a footwear company in 1970, grew from 0 to 30 million very quickly. The guy who ran that company, met another guy named, it was James Argyropoulos, who met a man named Bobby Margolis on a ski lift in Aspen. Margolis was a jeans guy, so they got together and started an apparel division. The apparel division took off. 4 years later, the company went public, and it was really, just a great story, straight up. Eventually, Argyropoulos and Margolis had different opinions. Margolis ended up wanting to buy the company. He took on a lot of junk bond debt at the time to do it with very high interest rates, and the company continued to do well, but then a recession hit. And their business changed a little bit, and they just couldn't make their debt payments. So they had to do a Chapter 11. They brought the debt down from like 180 million to 110, but their debt payments were still too high, so they had to do another bankruptcy. By that time, the management team got pushed out. A turnaround guy came in, and then eventually Margolis ended up buying the company back and turning it into a licensing company. So it was an interesting story, but that created the opportunity when they became a licensing company, and we were really a full manufacturing and distribution company. We really didn't fit with them anymore. So I was able to make an offer and convince the board that they should take the offer and let us spin the uniform business out.
Wait a minute. You're skipping such an important part of this story. So they decide that they're going to sell the uniform division. And you are working at the company. How old are you at the time?
I think I was about 26.
Okay. You're 26 years old. They're selling what's now...
No, I was 30.
No, you're old.
Yeah, I was 30, let's see, 95. I was 32.
Okay. He was told there'd be no math.
Yeah.
So you're 32 years old. You've been working at Cherokee for how long?
I started there in, 1 year.
Okay, so
89.
you're relatively new, young guy, and they're going to sell it. And at first, they didn't take you seriously that you could buy it, right?
Well, I had, there were a couple iterations. I had made them a couple of offers previously, which they didn't accept because the timing wasn't right, or they really weren't interested in selling it. And then they had come to me and said, look, we value the company this way, and we would sell the uniform business for X. Then I made them an offer, to that effect. But, the reality is I was a young guy. They said, look, you're a young guy. You're doing really well. You're making a lot of money. I don't really think you're really willing to take on that risk and buy this, asset. It was valued at about $12 million. And so they really weren't taking me that seriously.
And you didn't have $12 million at the time, right?
Yeah, I was shy about 900,000 of the 12 million. Yeah.
Okay. So how does a guy with $100,000 convince a seller of a large company to take him seriously and to sell him the company? How do you do that?
Well, I was in a good position because I was running the business, so I was credible. They were at a point where there was a lot of moving parts. You had a board that was going to be exiting, a board of directors that was kind of on the way out. You had another group, Margolis and his group, that wanted to turn the company into a licensing company, and they were coming back in. The company itself was in Chapter 11 and was just coming out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, or had just come out and was in a sort of precarious financial position. And what I did was I convinced the board that this $12 million, Margolis had a vision for creating a licensing company, but that was very different from where they were today. And there was no guarantee that that would work, and there was no real time frame for how long it would take or how much money would be required. And as a manufacturing company, we really didn't fit as a licensing company. So those were my angles and the perspectives that I wanted them to understand. So how I positioned this was, look, if I can get you, and it was $12.2 million, if I can get you $12.2 million for this little uniform business that you're not really interested in anyways and is not core to the future of your business, it really is like an insurance policy, because if this licensing strategy doesn't work and it takes longer, you're going to need to have extra money in the bank. And this conversion of this non-core asset into cash will help you to realize the licensing vision that you're trying to achieve. So they got that, but then there was this little small issue of, well, where's the $12 million going to come from? So I'm running the business, and they need me either to buy it or to be there when they want to sell it to somebody else. So if I come forward and I say to them, look, I want to buy this business, and if you don't sell it to me, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to do this on my own, it becomes kind of a risky proposition for them, because they lose their leader, who will possibly take other people with them. And I met their price, so it wasn't like I was trying to play games around the price. They had put the price out there. Because if they had put the price out at $12 million, I'd said, I'll give you 4, I'll give you 5, I'll give you 6, or I'll leave. That wouldn't have been a great strategy for them to look very favorably on me. And I needed to play it straight too, because if it didn't work, I still wanted to run this company. So basically what I did is I came in with my checkbook, and I showed them my bank statement. It said, I have $100,000. I'm going to write a check today for $100,000. This is my down payment for this business, and if I don't close in, I think it was 60 days or 90 days, I think it was 60, if I don't close, you keep the money. This is a non-refundable deposit. I did not tell my wife. You remember the knife story? I did not tell her this ahead of time. But I went in and put that on the table, and it was pretty persuasive for them, because they said, wow, if this guy is willing to risk everything he has, we better give him a shot at this, because if we don't, he's not going to be a real happy camper here when we try and sell this business to somebody else.
So before there was Texas Hold'em and the all-in, you were all in. 100% of your life savings, you put it non-refundable.
Yeah, I was all in. My backside was on the line, big time. So then I had to come home and tell my wife, which was riskier really than putting up the $100,000, I got to tell you.
This will be the part that we actually edit out of the video just for your own protection, so for family harmony. So you need 90 days, 60 days, you need every hour of that. You close, and take us just through the summary points of growing the business, how you grew it over time, from when you acquired it to a few years ago.
Yeah, so we grew very quickly, double-digit growth every year. We had great products, great brands, great service. We managed our working capital very well, and we had the right amount of inventory on the shelf most of the time, or the vast majority of the time, so we could meet deliveries but not be in a position where we had overstretched our balance sheet and put so much money into inventory that we were going to go, be in a cash constraint. We had a very, very good team, and we had great annual planning, and we were able to get lenders and investors who were willing to back us. We only had to raise equity that one time, and then we were able to finance the company based on really growing the amount of debt that we had. So we had banks that were willing to back us, and we had investors that were willing to back us. So we grew very steadily and made key investments at the right time when we could afford to make them.
Okay.
But usually in advance of when we really needed them.
And give us some of your larger customers I mentioned in the intro, but talk about them.
Well, I think the customers that people would be familiar with in the room mostly would be Walmart. There was a time where JCPenney was a large customer of ours when they were in the uniform business. But most of our customers are actually specialty uniform stores across the country, and these are typically local businesses that are very focused on serving medical workers within their market. Some of them have retail stores, websites, catalogs. Some of them are chains. Some of them are individual stores. So there's a mix of those.
Okay. Well, these guys
and
are
school uniform stores as well. We deal with folks who sell school uniforms to kids.
So a lot of people here want to start a business. We're going to fast forward to sort of when you wanted to sell the business. What do you consider, and I liked how you analyze this as sort of a prudent investor. When did you know it was time to sell, or at least think about taking some money off the table, and what was that analysis when you decided that?
Well, what happens is you build your business to a certain point, and sometimes you have, you wear different hats. You have an employee hat. In my case, I have a CEO hat. I have an investor hat, and I have a board member hat. So I have a lot of hats that I'm wearing at any point in time. But sometimes you have investors who invested money in the business, and you give them a time horizon. Someone invests money in your business, they sort of have an expectation, and you got to lay that out for them in order for them to invest. So how many years am I going to be invested in your business, and what is my exit? And so along the way, we actually went through a sale process that didn't work out. Can't remember if it was before or after, but somewhere around that time we made an offer to buy out a lot of the original investors because we didn't see an exit in the short run. And those investors got 10 times on their money, so they were pretty happy. I think it was about seven years. We originally thought it would be 5 to 7 years. Shortly thereafter, we continued to grow the business, and actually it was a little ways after that where we had grown the business to a point we were making some very large investments, and there comes a certain point in your cycle where you have to say, okay, if I have all my eggs, so to speak, in this basket, and whatever that theoretically is worth, if I keep the business, then basically what I'm doing is I'm making a decision to invest that amount of money into the business. And so at a certain point you say, okay, if I had that much money in cash, would it be smart to invest it all in any one place? And sometimes in the beginning, when you see a good investment, it does make sense to put all your eggs in that basket and drive it. But once you hit a certain point where the value is a larger amount of money, you have to look at that and say, okay, if I'm a prudent investor, does it make sense to have all my eggs in any basket? And at some point you say, it would make more sense to diversify some of this investment. So that, and also you get to a point where you say, would we be better off too having partners that have different kinds of experience and fresh perspectives? I mean, we're very much insular in this business, but if we sell part of the company or all the company and reinvest part of the proceeds with a private equity partner, and that firm has business expertise over many years across multiple businesses, what value can they add to the business? So I think it's a combination of those two things.
It's great advice. You are a smart investor. I remember your words when I was considering selling my business and did. And I think you said, when you own a small business, it takes everything that you have, time, money, energy, but especially money. Like 100% of your net worth is tied up into your business. And as he said, would a prudent investor put 100% of your money into one company? And I think he said, like, every time you put the key in the door of your office and unlock it, You're making the decision to invest 100% of your net worth in that business. That scared the crap out of me. And that was the reason why I sold my business, because like you worry that something big could go wrong. Now you had
Right.
reached a scale where, it wouldn't go to zero, but losing a large customer like a Walmart could be a big change to your business.
Right. I mean, when you start out and it's a small investment, I mean, at that point it wasn't, but you start out, you don't even think about it because you're building the business. But at some point it hits you when you get a sense of what this, business has become worth. You have to kind of look at that and look at weighing those options.
All right. So you've sold / financed part of your business twice. You're set for life. You can do whatever you want. Why buy it back?
Well, first time when I sold the business, our team sold the business, and then we reinvested part of the proceeds back into the deal. So we went as a group from owning 100% to owning 40% of the business. And then we had stock options on top of that. So maybe by the time we were done, we owned like 55% of the business. That investor has a certain time horizon too, that they're investing their money, and they have the majority of the business. They have voting control of the business. And we agreed together that, we had about a 5-year horizon that we would look to sell the business again. So when I sold it the second time, I'm still the largest investor, the largest investor, and other members of our management team are investors or option holders, stock option holders, and so it made sense. We built the business over the next 4 years. We entered into a sale process, and there was a great opportunity to sell the company again, so we did it again. And then we took part of the proceeds again and invested that into the business. So we remained running the company. I was still wearing my CEO hat, my employee hat. I was on the board, and I was also a shareholder, although I was not as large a shareholder as I had been in the past. I was effectively diversifying my assets. I still love the business, still believe in the business, still believe in the management team and our future. And we happened to sell the business to Bank of America Merrill Lynch. And after we sold the business to them, within about a year, the rules had changed about what types of assets banks could own, and they had to hold $3 of cash for every $1 that they had invested in what you would call risky assets, which would be private equity businesses. And so they needed to exit. At the time, cotton prices had gone through the roof. We had some changes in the business with one of our largest customers, and the growth rate of the business had really slowed. And that, so the business was not valued as high as it was, although long term we hoped that, cotton prices would come back to a more reasonable range and that we would be able to, turn the business around and start it growing again. And so we decided, at that point, we could have exited and let Bank of America sell it to a third party, but we decided that we would partner up with these two private equity funds that wanted to invest, and I made a decision to invest some funds back into the business to become a larger shareholder.
Okay. Let me ask one more question, then we're going to open it up to questions from the audience or from the students, and Amanda will have a wireless mic. But you've sold the business, you've bought it back, you're still the largest shareholder in the business, and we started with why with the students. Why do you do this? What's your purpose? And sort of where are you in life right now, and what do you have sort of like that drives you and your larger purpose for this part of your life?
Well, I like to use the analogy that, well, let me go back. When I was a lot younger, my grandmother once said to me, and she had a interesting business background. She was a very smart businesswoman, but she said, never focus on making money. She said, just focus on creating value, and money comes from that, So I never really was that focused on money, and really we were focused on creating value for our customers, providing great products and great service, helping them to be profitable, providing value to our shareholders, the folks who invested, being good to our employees, and helping them to realize their goals and ambitions, and helping them to express their talents in the business. So I think that's really continues to be the motivating factor for me. We serve a market primarily. We have a school uniform business, but our primary business is serving healthcare workers. And as far as I'm concerned, healthcare workers are saints. I mean, you look at nurses and what they go through and what they do. I mean, they really provide this incredible web, like a backbone of support for the entire country. And they're amazing people. So they need to be dressed. They need to be in uniform. We want to make great uniforms for them so they're comfortable. We want to create a warmer, friendlier hospital environment. So we do, we license Disney and Nickelodeon and Peanuts and Hello Kitty, all kinds of brands that get put onto scrubs for kids in pediatrics. We've created our own characters and our own characters called Hospital Critters, and we've written a book. We're about to publish our second book. And we believe long-term that Hospital Critters will sort of become the official characters of the hospital environment, and will help kids to sort of better navigate that healthcare experience and the hospital experience in a way that's not so scary and intimidating. We publish a magazine for nurses called Scrubs. We've got a website for nurses called Scrubs. We get about 300,000 visitors a month to that. So we're building media properties, and we're partnering with folks who want to reach nurses, which happens to be the second largest audience of working women in America, and the most affluent audience, and definitely the most influential audience of working women. So we've got a great target market, and our job is to help make nurses' lives better and help make patients' lives better.
And again, before we open it up to them, I want to talk about personal highlights and some of the things that you've been able to do separate and apart from Cherokee. Can you share what you got to do a few years ago at USC and how that experience was for these students who weren't there?
I'm assuming you're talking about the commencement speech.
You know it.
Yeah. So I got a call in my office one day. Not too many things that make me nervous anymore, but I got a call one day from Tom O'Malia, who is the head of the entrepreneur program here at the Greif Center. And he said, listen, I was talking to the dean, and we want to have someone who's younger. And I said, thank you very much. Someone who's younger and who is someone that the students will relate to, and someone who's been in the program. And we want to offer you the opportunity to give the commencement speech for Marshall, and would you do it? And my heart just started pounding, and I think I was just in shock, and I said, well, Tom, I mean, isn't there someone serious? I mean, someone big you want to do this, And he's like, no, we don't want anyone big, we want you. So anyways, I told him I would do it, and it was just an amazing experience for me. I spent a lot of time and energy focusing on developing this commencement speech, which I never expected to do. Got to have my family there, and got to give this commencement speech, which was really one of the best experiences and one of the great honors I've ever had.
And it was, I was there. I wasn't teaching undergrads at the time, but I went there to hear it. And it was superb in every way. It was, I'm going to send you guys a link tonight or tomorrow so you can watch it. But it just was, I mean, it was art to see how it was organized, how we delivered it, and it was very you. And so I have really enjoyed, I've watched it. I watched this sort of, my pregame thing for today, and it brought me back.